Hey guys, my name is Drake. Just wanted to put a session together, kind of do a little bit of a brainstorming or a barkstorming session has been put out there lately. I'm going to be running a game in the setting of a Dragongrin next week, and I really don't do a lot of prep. Really don't do a lot of stuff like that. Um, Tend to like to let the players kind of go with it. If you've seen the provokers, that kind of like narrative style is what I prefer. Sometimes you get players that can do that, other times you don't. Either way, it's a good time. But I wanted to run a campaign with these constructs that Tim and James Kearney created. They call them Tomehearts. Um, these things are pretty interesting. They're pure, pretty much arcane energy, but they're actually sentient. They're actually become awakened. They have kind of their own consciousness. So I'm thinking, what could we do? What could we have them doing? How could you really hurt them? They're just pretty much pure energy. Chris Wilhelm set a little document up from, so it was probably a year ago, where they were talking about tome hearts, and he was nice enough to send that over. So I kind of gave it to all my players and made sure that everybody kind of knew what was going on with their stats and stuff. But with regards to the game, I just really wanted to figure out, what would their motivations be? Why would a construct want to, what could they do? What could make the game interesting? And after watching the Dragon Grin campaign that Tim Carney ran, called Crux, and he's making references to the dismembered lord, which is basically the dictator or the ruler of Grin. I thought that could be a pretty interesting kind of tie-in. So really, kind of what I wanted to do was just, okay, what's going on with this? What could happen? So, okay, what could be the motivation? Well, maybe they're getting away from something. Well, what are they getting away from? When these things awaken, they're pretty naive. They're like small children. So I thought, hey, maybe these guys are, something happened to them that they just don't understand. You know, Maybe one in particular has some type of importance to the dismembered lord. Something like that. Maybe I just kind of keep going back and forth. Well, what am I going to do? Okay, well, um, I thought, okay, well, maybe, well, kind of thinking, maybe one of them in particular has something within it, something that the dismembered lord draws power from. And if this thing, for some reason, gets hurt when it gets power drawn from it, it doesn't understand. It just understands that it hurts, and it doesn't want to hurt, and so it runs away. These tome hearts are sentient. They're not required to follow the orders once they become awakened, as they say. But what are they going to do? Where are they going to go? Where would be safe? This guy's supposed to be like this all powerful ruler, kind of a demonic. I'm assuming with the dismembered lord. There hasn't been a lot of canon put out about the dismembered lord yet, but the one thing that I have seen is, obviously this is a bad guy. This isn't somebody that's, exactly the people's, ruler there. So I thought, okay, what could we do with that? Okay. Also, I'm noticing the hair is quite lovely today, so I apologize for that, people. But so, okay, so if he's running away from this, whatever's inside him, I have no idea what it is yet. Um, what could he be? You know, um, Maybe something like a heart, maybe within him, or some part of a demon or some other evil thing from the evil plane or the plane of chaos or something like that. Maybe this is what makes this tome heart special, one of a kind, so to speak. Maybe the dismembered lord specifically created this one for some purpose, to put part of his essence into one of these things, kind of like with Harry Potter, like with the what's it called, Horcruxes, or like a lich does with part of its soul. It can't be destroyed, but if part of it goes away, the dismembered lord may become weaker. So maybe we'll go with that. So there's going to be one that has it in them. I think that would be pretty cool. I think so. What from there? Well, he's got people. I guess the other kind of players will figure out why they're going with him. He's obviously fleeing. I think he needs to go somewhere to be safe. The only place in Dragongrin that I can think of that would be safe for kind of a construct, I would think, would be pretty much all the what's it called, Deep Vault. With that whole supplement that was put out by Absolute Tabletop, that would be pretty cool. I think that one would work really well. I think that it might be a place where the constructs could really not only be safe but almost thrive. And maybe it's far enough down beneath the mountains and kind of its own little area, its own little location that maybe the dismembered lord's reach doesn't go that far. Maybe he might have spies there and stuff like that, but maybe they don't. That's the point. That's the goal. I think that sounds like a good goal. We're gonna go with that. Hold on a second while I write it down. So if we're going to Deep Vault, okay. So the point is to go to Deep Vault. Tell the players that or not. I don't know. I'll come up with something. Maybe tell the one player that has the special thing in them. Maybe they'll know and they'll suggest it. But as far as that whole continent, if you looked at that continent, there's really not much there. There's Grin, there's Innis, and there's the mountains. And Deep Vault is way under there. They're kind of impassable, even for creatures like Tomehearts that don't eat or sleep, or they're not really affected by the elements per se. They can breathe underwater. They're actually a really cool class. It was a very clever thing to make up. I think we all see those sentient animated armor, and playing one of those as a character is really cool. So if their point is, this one was created or has something inside of them that the dismembered lord wants. Okay. And they need to get him or whatever's inside of him into Deep Vault in order to have a chance of survival. Okay. I think that works pretty well. So beyond that, the Dark Lord would, or excuse me, Dismembered Lord would probably send people out after this guy, right? Okay. So if you're talking about encounters, in Grin, from what I understand, what I've talked to Tim about from time to time, is his reach. And again, I'm just getting this from the games that I've watched. Is as you get further away from Grin, he's still the ruler, but it's not his grasp on that may be weakened as you get further away. But we're still talking about Grin. We're still talking about they're going to the mountains. They're not going, really far away. So he's going to be influenced. If they run into anybody, these people are going to be scared, even if they want to help them. If they know about what's going on, maybe they won't. So what do you do there? Do you just have random encounters in villages, and do you have like I said, I'm just kind of brainstorming all this stuff. Do you have people tracking them? Do you have people? Actually, I like the tracking thing. Yeah, hold on a second. They could have a tracker, kind of the antagonist there. Because obviously the Dismembered Lord isn't going to come out himself, so he has to kind of send one of his guys, one of his powerful guys. So what do you do with that? He could be anything. I mean, if he's that powerful, it could be anything from, from just a regular bounty hunter, like ranger type guy, to a pack of something. It could be another Tomeheart. Think about it. Maybe it could be a Copper Jackal. They are kind of at the same level. They're kind of like Superman. And they have the boons and stuff like that. Would make him pretty powerful and pretty exceptional at what he does, depending on the chapter that he's part of and stuff like that. And the Sea Jacks are mercenaries. They're not necessarily always on the side of good, from what I understand. So that might be pretty interesting. Yeah. A Copper Jackal bounty hunter? I'm gonna write that one down. So what else? I mean, so what does this guy do? How does he track them? I mean, these are tome hearts. They're just going to keep going. They don't really have to rest but a couple hours a day, and it's more in shutdown mode than anything else. So what do they do? What do they well, I don't know. Maybe what if the bounty hunter had some type of a gadget or skill or something like that? Maybe it has something that yeah, maybe it has something that it can track a specific tome heart, some type of a skill or a apparatus. Or I mean, this is Dragongrin. There's a lot of technology, arcanic technology, merged with the magic and with the natural world, especially if you get down into Deep Vault. That's when it gets really interesting. So maybe, what do you think here? Maybe he has some type of a device that can kind of point him in a way. It's kind of like detect magic, but it's kind of like a compass. It'll point to where it needs to go. But if he had that, how would he track individuals, though? You would need something, like a piece of them, right? So it's like a dog with a scent. A scent of somebody's clothes, they'd have to track them. Maybe, okay, well, maybe a bit of that essence that the dismembered lord kind of put into this tome heart. Maybe this device usually requires like something from the creator, something like blood or something. I think actually blood would work good. So this thing can track a tome heart based on the creator, like the tome hearts that creator made within a certain distance. I don't know. I'll come up with that. But normally it would be blood, but like with the dismembered lord, since a piece, if we do it with like a piece of his essence inside of the tome heart, that could actually be pretty cool. So we go with that. We go with inside of it. And again, guys, I'm just spitballing here. I have no idea what I'm going to run in this game, and it's in like 2 weeks. But so the dismembered lord could send this Sea Jack bounty hunter out and maybe give him a little bit of the dismembered lord's blood or something that could be put into this machine to track the tome heart. The tome hearts, would they know about this thing? They tend to be naive, but maybe there's one there that's a little bit older that's heard of this guy, or what happens to tome hearts that flee their masters, that break their bonds, break their chains. Maybe there's one that can help, but again, I'm going back to the interactions though. In their travels, how would the villagers be? If there's villages or even small cities or something like that, they're going to be loyal to the dismembered lord outwardly. If the tome hearts choose to go through a city, just being naive, would they get captured? Would they, would the surrounding area know what was going on? I don't know. I guess it really depends on what the players do. If they, just make a beeline the shortest direction, they obviously don't have to worry too much about weather and things like that. They do have to worry about terrain, obviously, and they do take damage like rare things. So there might be some encounters there, bandits or something like that, typical road caravans and stuff like that. Obviously tome hearts look very different. They don't have faces. It's basically arcane energy of whatever color that people choose. And their body, or armor, from what I read, is, it could be made of stone or bone or wood or any combination of the two, whatever the creator wanted. It's basically just used to encapsulate that energy. So, again, what do you do there? How... I don't know. I think it really depends on what the players do. If they decide to just bust into a big city, I think they'd have to get captured or at least get into a fight. I don't know. It could be interesting because you're not talking about some tome hearts and like a wise old leader. You're talking about just tome hearts. and for whatever reason, these other three have accompanied this other guy. And again, I don't do a lot with the players' backstories. They can fill that in as they go. Kind of that narrative, I think, is a lot more fun to let them have free reign of it, so to speak. So again, though, so I got, that they're basically that the dismembered lord, there's something inside of him, like some essence from the dismembered lord, or something that gives this dismembered lord power. With this Tomeheart away, the dismembered lord is not that power or as powerful, and there will be, say, some type of a tracker sent out to go get them. That sounds, I kind of like that. Whatever he uses will have some type of blood or some type of piece of the dismembered lord to track that Tomeheart, as it's part of him. But I think that piece of him has to give that Tomeheart some other ability. Maybe one he doesn't realize. Maybe at a given time, if he gets he dies or something, he has some fantastic. It's kind of like with sorcerers, like some wild magic event happens when he just goes down to 1 hit point or something like that. Or if he gets captured or something epic, as he has part of this powerful entity in him. That could be really cool too. So yeah, I think as far as just a one shot, obviously it could go a lot more, but just sitting here spitballing for the last 15 minutes, we have Tomehearts, we have they're fleeing, trying to get to the Sphere Mountains and into Deep Vault. They don't know how. They have to figure out a way, or I got to figure out a way. Just kind of give them clues along the way. I do like riddles. I do like riddles. So maybe the entrance will be something that one of them read or something like that. And they have to solve a riddle to find the entrance to Deep Vault, or maybe it's given to them, or maybe, something like that. So he's going to have a tracker. The tracker could be a Sea Jack bounty hunter, with the Sea Jack boons and everything. But then again, I feel kind of bad killing a Sea Jack. So maybe he wouldn't die. Maybe he would realize, this wasn't the best thing and just kind of give up, or I don't know. It all just kind of depends on what the players do, really. But like I said, the Sea Jack bounty hunter got blood, and I have lots of question marks as far as the road travel or what they could run into in Grin. I mean, it's really open. They could be going through forests, they could be going through mountains, they could be going through anything. So pretty much the entire monster manual is open. So why not? Let's do that. Hold on. Let's see. Let's just open to a random thing and see what we got. Oh, well, that's probably not going to work, because that's a Balor, a huge fiend, with like 300 hit points. I don't think level 3s are going to do that. So let's look again. We'll just. Oh. Well, hold on. There we go. Oh, well, that's interesting. Came up with this Helmed Horror, which is again another animated. It's not really a Tomeheart per se, but it's another animated, construct. So that could be interesting, like Tomehearts versus Tomehearts, for lack of a better phrase. Maybe those guys guard the entrance to the tunnels to get into Deep Vault, or into that area. Not Deep Vault itself, but to into that area of the underside of the Sphere Mountains. That could be really cool if they had that, like 2 guards. I mean, these guys got like 20 AC, 60 hit points. They're pretty badass. I mean, they're challenge rating 4, so if I had 2 of them, the Tomehearts could certainly win if they're smart about it, but they could also get their ass kicked. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah, maybe we'll do that. I don't know. So yeah, so the Helmed Horrors sound really good. I like that with them doing that. So let me write that down again. So we'll do Helmed Horrors. We'll do 2 maybe. at entrance to whatever tunnel. So yeah, again, so I mean, really, I guess they would have to at some point run into the bounty hunter. The bounty hunter would have to kind of catch up to them at some point, whether that be in the beginning or at the end. I really don't know, but maybe that is just up to kind of them, because I really would rather more of a narrative base, of a narrative type of a thing before we get into combat. I don't really like combat heavy games. I think the stories, you can go 3-4 hours and have one or two encounters and still have a great game. I like the people to really develop their characters and what they are. It's going to be interesting to see how they give these walking, constructs personalities. But yeah, I think, having the Tomehearts, getting away from the Dismembered Lord, essence of the Dismembered Lord in them. Dismembered Lord doesn't like it, sends people after him. Maybe not just the bounty hunter, but maybe other people too. Maybe sends out word to everybody around to be looking for them. And depending on where the players go, they might get caught. They might not. Might have to do some finagling or some bartering or some bribing to get through. Maybe a village or two to get there. Maybe have some encounters with wildlife, because they wouldn't know what it was. Again, these are generally pretty naive, especially the main one would have had awakened very recently, so he wouldn't have the knowledge of the outside world. So I think bringing that kind of naive, childish, not childish, but childlike mind, like everything is amazing for the first time. If you ever have kids and I have an 8-year-old and I have a 4-year-old, and watching them look at anything in nature is amazing because it's all new and fantastic to them. And I think that's kind of what they would be. They understand, but everything's new and fun. Maybe some of these guys don't even know what they can do or what they are. So, but yeah, I think again, getting away from them, knowing that they're going to be pursued, trying to get into to the Sphere Mountains and find a way into the area, underneath that they'll eventually get to Deep Vault into the Titan Sea, and excuse me, the Titan Blood Sea, and all that stuff. I think that's actually a pretty badass, kind of storyline, the basic storyline anyway. And again, we spitballed that in 20 minutes. So, I don't prep much. I prep maybe an index card. Like I said, I have this marked that there's the Helmed Horror is what they call it. I have that marked, and I'll use that just for encounter purposes. But as far as the other stuff, I'll come up with some PCs, and maybe I'll get somebody to actually make a CJack for me. That would be really cool. If I got a player, maybe I'll get one of the AbTab guys to roll up a CJack for me specifically for this, and maybe I can get them to play it. I don't know. If not, I'm more than happy to. But that would be really cool, though, to actually have like an actual character sheet of the bounty hunter that's going to follow him, because this guy's going to be pretty badass. So yeah, that's kind of my brainstorming. I know it's not as focused, and we're not talking about one little thing. Like I know Barker was talking about focusing on something, but it's just kind of my process and how I'll literally just sit here and talk things out and spitball in my head. I'll write down little notes, and in 20 minutes you come up with a pretty good story. All of us in this group and all these groups are really creative people, and we played enough games and we've seen enough games to kind of put one to. If you get stuck, go to your DM guide or go to your anything you get from Absolute Tabletop, and there's a bunch of roll tables. I mean, just random encounters, anything you want, and just randomly do it and figure out a way that it can fit into your world. I hear people all the time going, I can't DM, I can't come up with stories, I'm not that creative. I can't be like a Matt Click or a Tim and James Carney or Nate or Barker or any of the provokers. Yes, you can. They all work very well together. They absolutely do, and it's amazing to watch. They all have a very good narrative style. But just because you don't have their style doesn't mean that your games can't be fantastic too. Have a little faith in yourself. Good players will make your game good. Okay, bad players will make your game eh. But you have to understand that if you do right and you let the players, really get into character and get into the game and really push the story along, all you have to do is play off of them. And it does take a little bit of practice. I'll tell you that. From what I was understanding, the Crux game that Tim ran the other day, that he really didn't prep, and his players made that happen. So keep that in mind. Whenever you kind of feel like running something or anything like that, just kind of give it a try. There's going to be enough people to play with you, and if you say you're just starting out as a DM, people are going to help you. They really are. Shoot, I watch games all the time, and I play games all the time where I don't know every single rule, and sometimes you just make a call. You don't have to be an expert at everything to run a game. It's just fun to tell the story, and that's all we're doing. Not just the DM, but the players too. We're all telling stories, and when you're telling stories off of each other, it's absolutely fantastic. So anyway, guys, again, I am Drake. This was just me kind of spitballing and brainstorming for an upcoming Dragongrin Tomeheart game that I'm doing. I hope everybody kind of enjoyed listening to me rant and what I'm doing here. So I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to video editing, so nothing will be edited. This is just straight me talking. I'm trying to figure out the video editing thing, but the learning curve is quite a bit for me right now. So me and my Chromebook are just gonna kind of sit here and try to do it on one shot. But again, hope you guys tune into the game when I do run it. And I'm thinking I might post this before it, just to kind of give people an idea. But I also might post it after it, just to kind of show how I kind of prep for it. So again, I could have probably turned this into a 2-hour prep session and wrote everything down, but I think I have enough for a pretty good game here. So, yeah, I hope you all have a great day or night or whenever you're watching this. And, yeah, take care, guys.